Thus, without further ado, the fantastic and fabulous Liz Galloway, Director of Marketing and Communications for UnCruise. UnCruise.com, UnCruise.com. UnCruise adventures, no lines, no crowds, never boring. Small ship adventures, and my favorite slogan, break up with boring. Liz, so great to speak with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time, especially just before the big holiday week. Regardless of where one might be located, it still tends to affect us in one way or another. How are you doing today, Liz?
I am doing pretty great, as I love that introduction, so you can't miss with that. Make me sound even better.
Well, thank you. Well, and I had to kind of, I had to segment it because you, Liz, along with being the Director of Marketing and Communications for such a fantastic brand as UnCruise, who we, of course, absolutely love. I've really enjoyed the two incredible podcasts that you coordinated with CEO Dan Blanchard, such an amazing individual who obviously created UnCruise and then just has this undying and really just true to real to life passion for travel and the industry and what UnCruise is and what it is that you guys do. But then you also, Liz, you are the founder. I believe your specific title that you have is Director of PR and whatnot, but also the founder of Brand Sanity Media, your ad agency, and that's a fantastic name, by the way, for an ad agency. So you, and that also, just like Dan, that's due to your, along with having the experience in media, advertising, marketing, et cetera, for years, but then also the two of them play upon your, at the core, your love for travel and the industry and marketing that industry, correct?
Yes, that is exactly right. And specifically, I started that boutique media and public relations agency only focused on travel and adventure brands and getting the story out about them because of my love for that. And, you can't complain about that. Who doesn't? If you've got an opportunity to work in travel at some form, you're going to take it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially, but then when you have that passion for it, and I compliment you on taking the passion that you have for it and creating a company to further expand upon what you do so incredibly well with and for UnCruise, who you've also been with for quite some time. And on that note, let's dig into UnCruise for a moment with respect to already now Thanksgiving week in America. And there are no words to describe how quickly this year has gone, as anyone I think can attest to, and I would think that you'd agree. And so, I can't believe it's already been over 3 months since Dan and I had our second conversation, which was such a great one. And how is, now that we're basically closing out the year for the sake of conversation, where do you and Dan, as you're sitting there and you look back on 2022, you look forward into 2023, how can you summarize what you've seen this past year, the successes, and what you're looking forward to based on what you've seen this past year and right now into 2023 with respect to travel and as it pertains to UnCruise?
Yeah, that's a lot to put out there. So let's start with one piece of it. I think looking back over this year, it has been a really great, as I want to still call it, a comeback year. As part of it is still getting back into normalization of what travel and travel behavior is, and now the differentiation of how travelers look at things, book things, what their desires are, what their demands are, and kind of their expectations as a whole. And then also just their booking patterns have changed a lot. Their spending patterns have changed a lot. And
Right.
you can kind of segment and target things a little bit more in that sense. So some of it's good and some of it's, kind of had us continually adjusting to things as it is. But that's just the realm of marketing and public relations and storytelling, especially with travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
People want to get back out there, and there's definitely a trend that everything's back, everything's ramping back up. And this has been a super strong year for us as far as booking in that particular brand with UnCruise. just in the sense that people have been waiting for years to utilize their cruise that was put on hold, not only with us, but, other brands, but also the fact that adventure travel and boutique travel and small outdoor travel has increased exponentially at this time post pandemic
Right.
has been a kind of a hidden benefit to us, just in the sense that that's everything that brand does. It is focused on small groups, small footprint. You can feel good about traveling with them because it's sustainable. It's just going to be a little bit safer. You're going to have that personalized service. You're going to have, everyone's going to know your name, just kind of like a local, and become part of the UnCruise family. And so that is something that's always been part of the brand core values, but it's also a benefit that has kind of come out of the pandemic, and that people now know that there are options like small ship cruising and expedition cruising that they really didn't know so much about prior. And with some of the negative marketing and media that was around cruises as a whole over the past couple of years, we were actually able to spin off that quite a lot,
right.
piggyback on the big cruise brand names, but tell our story authentically. And so that was a big attraction to people, and we'll continue to do that. So that's not only something we needed to kind of jump on, but something that we'll stay on trend with. And I think something that a lot of brands are looking to do more of. And so it's been nice to have that. And also this year, recognizing that our new video campaigns and commercial campaigns that went out, we just got recognized with 3 awards, with a gold and a silver award in marketing and communications, and those kind of responsive videos and such. So that was nice to see too, when you can kind of get the recognition for people actually seeing those sticky campaigns and having them stick in their head, but having it fun, having it lighthearted, having it playful, which is also a big core value of the brand as a whole.
Absolutely. Very well said, all of that. Thank you very much. And yeah, it's with UnCruise, and in correlation with what you were just discussing, it is a silver lining from the pandemic, in that it gave people the opportunity, as Dan and I discussed as well, not only to know that they should travel more, as people should, as much as they can, but not just travel, but to experience travel, to truly experience it. And with UnCruise, that's what one is able to do, whether it's a person by themselves, a couple, a family. As I thought one of the most beautiful things that Dan was sharing was with UnCruise, one of the, and you can touch upon this as well, please, if you'd like, is one of the significant increases in bookings, or types of bookings he mentioned, were families, but not just families, but multi-generational families. So grandparents with their children and their grandchildren. So they're all experiencing this amazing, basically bucket list trip, for the sake of conversation, and not just stopping at ports, not simply looking out at, say, a polar bear if it's in Alaska. Obviously, UnCruise does many amazing destinations, Alaska being the heart of it, but literally getting off the boat and going and experiencing it, being able to hike with, again, grandparents, parents, grandchildren, etc., but really being able to sink their teeth into travel. And that must be exciting for you, along with UnCruise, but across the board, as people are, have an even more significant passion for travel, a reason for it, because it's, again, a silver lining from the pandemic. It's that that quick reminder upside the head that this is our one shot. So live it to the fullest.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in there of kind of gold of what you were saying, and lots of things that we play on too. As travelers ourselves, I think people who love that want to, first and foremost, have the stories and the experiences to share rather than just the things. I mean, it's great to have a t-shirt. Sure, go ahead and buy one. We have an online gift shop. We have great stuff in there. It's fun. But people want the experiences and the stories to share when they're around the dinner table, like, oh my God, I saw this bubble net feeding these whales and we were so close and I just couldn't imagine it. And then everyone around you is screaming and jumping, because the feeling of seeing those things so up close is something that's unexplainable. And then also, it's a great dinner story, isn't it? So everybody loves to have those. And I think not only with the brand, but our partners and anybody who, not only, as you mentioned, Dan and myself, that passion for travel in our work and personally is we want to start bringing new people connected to nature at a younger age. We take people from 8 years old with the UnCruise brand, so 8 to 88, come and connect to nature. And it's important to start not only giving stewards of nature to our children, as there's so many topics that we can go into on that, right?
Yeah.
But just the fact that they're experiencing things in a different way, and that connection and that appreciation. So that's a huge part of it. I mean, bucket list is just kind of a sidebar of that experiential travel. But we're seeing more solo travelers, female travelers, families is great. So there's always been an uptick in that. But even those younger families, the 30s and 40s that have families now, not just the 40s, 50s, and 60s-year-olds who have been kind of the more target demographic, but there has been some of that shift. And part of that also has been a very conscious targeting of different segmented marketing elements and increasing that brand share.
Very well said. Very well said. That and Dan did touch upon that as well. How impressive and meaningful it was that there was an uptick, to use the word that you just did, with respect to younger travelers and travelers that had a keen interest and significant interest in engaging with the environment more, and but doing it obviously in this incredible way, i.e., with UnCruise, and then also, to touch upon a few of the comments you used, but with respect to UnCruise specifically, say in Alaska, and Dan was sharing that due to the pandemic, and I believe it was the reduction in the amount of obviously tourist activity and whatnot that had occurred during that time, that the incredible benefits and increase in the number of whales and wildlife activity just was absolutely phenomenal, correct?
Yeah, it was interesting because, when there was that lull and nobody could travel in Alaska, the wildlife was probably like, hooray!
Exactly.
We're sick of seeing your faces here. Let's all to us. But
exactly.
No, they like it when we come. So like, oh yeah, there's that small ship brand. Yeah, welcome back. But,
right, exactly.
No, it definitely was an uptick in kind of activity. How they were interacting. The migration of different whales or certain bears and things like that. So it was interesting to see, and people were actually monitoring and tracking that. Obviously there's national parks there, so that was a big part of where the information came from. But it was a case of, it had time to refresh and renew and kind of rebuild itself. And, some of those areas that were over touristed, or, that big famed word that we don't like of over tourism, really came to the forefront of things. And that stop for even a little bit of time, those couple of years, allowed so many places to refresh, revive, and then also rethink the way that their tourism should be in connection to their local communities, in connection to their marketing and tourism boards, and how they present that message. And that's something that was also very conscious on our minds, that we always have been connected to those local communities. And now I think more worldwide, that scope as a whole, they are too.
Good. And it's just incredible how just a brief amount of time. I mean, when you really think about that, because on the grand scale of things, it was such a small amount of time. Yet during that small amount of time, how significant of a positive impact that had on the environment, whether speaking about wildlife, et cetera, in Alaska, or whether it's smog in cities from people driving, such as Los Angeles and whatnot. But just it's incredible, and it is so positive and powerful for people, especially circling back to what you just said with respect to in communities that are very heavily tourist based, to be cognizant of that and to recognize it and to realize, okay, we can do things differently and better.
So true. And, it's always, I don't want to say conundrum, but the fact that, I market and produce and create and do all these things to tell people these wonderful stories of, hey, you should come here and this is why. Yes, we want them to experience those places, but I think that pairing that message with how to protect it, how to be, recreate responsibly and those types of things is always that fine balance. So promote, don't promote. How do we tell this message? Do we want people here? Of
Right.
course we do, but I think we need to all respect that, there are right ways to do it. And, a lot of the data that I read, travel pollution, if we will, isn't one of the biggest contributors to larger planet issues, for instance. So travel is still there. There are still sustainable ways to do it in smaller ways, and looking at different options to offset that as far as those types of things. But yeah, there's always a fine balance of over tourism. How do you tell that story? And then also how we continue to learn about our world and ourselves through those experiential travels.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, with respect to Uncruise, before we gear shift, and I'm really looking forward to discussing a few of the points that I'm reading that you mentioned as we were preparing for this fantastic conversation. With Uncruise now, as we're heading quickly into, basically, we're in 2023, you have, along with, of course, the heartbeat of the company being Alaska, but then you also have, of course, Mexico. Dan was also mentioning, I believe, was it Belize?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Belize is back now this year. We was supposed to start in 2022, so it was nice to finally get it out there.
And then so as you look at 2023, do all of the locations look absolutely sensational in terms of people booking and being excited about getting on the trips? And how does 2023 look for you after having a strong 2022?
Yeah, as far as data and the numbers, where a lot of time I need to be buried to get a real sense of what's going on in the direction, is Alaska is always strong, right? That's always a huge bucket list for people, not only in North America but around the world. So that's always strong, and we're already booking up pretty well for that. I think in some of those months, probably better than our pre-pandemic numbers in some areas. On other ones, our winter travel completely shifts over to our Latin America, our Hawaii, our Belize. And so many of those do well, with some kind of downturns in areas around holidays, which is odd because you would think people would want more of that. I mean, who doesn't want to be on board a small ship on New Year's or Christmas or Thanksgiving?
Right. Yeah.
So there is some that. So there's always fluctuation because the brand as a whole is seasonal, and that's just part of the nature of travel. I think some of the spots that we always want different targeted campaigns, and this is where all of the creativity comes in, and new movement and storytelling, is our Alaska Awakening for spring. When people think, oh, I don't want to go to Alaska early because it's going to be too cold, it's too this. That's not really the case in Southeast Alaska, where we spend the time. And then also, people forget about Baja, Mexico. It's one of the most underrated places, where I actually am speaking to you from right now, as we have our season for Baja starting in January here and have been here for years. And it's actually most of the biggest underrated places, I think, that people overlook. They think Mexico, Baja, it's going to be Cabo, it's going to be parties, it's going to be that.
Right.
While we may come in and bring our people in through Cabo San Jose, they actually depart from La Paz, which is about an hour, 2-hour drive up the peninsula, and they go directly out from there and spend the entire weeks on private islands, sandy beaches, where they're the only group of people on their beach party, or kayaking, or snorkeling, or swimming with the whale sharks, or the sea lions, or seeing the calving of the gray whales in Magdalena Bay.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It's actually one of my favorite itineraries, and I will go diving or swimming with whale sharks as many times as you'll take me. So it never gets old. It never gets old.
And so you said you're in Baja now.
I am in Baja now.
Yeah. Oh, good for you.
Part of the time down here.
Good for you. Well, that sounds like such an incredible trip. I mean, visiting beaches such as that. Not only are they pristine in general, and Mexico has some of the most fantastic beaches on the planet, but to be able to be with a very small, intimate group with knowledgeable, very experienced, some of the best on the planet, guides, captains, etc., and then to be on beaches where no one else is. I mean, that's unparalleled. It's incredible.
It is to say that old saying of someone else's tagline, it's priceless, right?
Hey, yes, it is.
um,
It is priceless.
but it's, sometimes people just think, oh, I won't go there, or maybe it's not safe. There's always those different things, but Baja is actually one of the safest areas on Mexico, and it is a separate peninsula archipelago, and so it is very much full of wildlife, sea life, whales activity, and that. So I would totally encourage people to consider that. And honestly, with the holiday deals, and this is a pitch right now.
Yeah, no, please. I was going to ask. Please present the pitch. Is this now a good time for people? Is this now a good time for people to be considering that?
Absolutely. Now is the perfect time with all the deals that we have going on that focus on the Baja area. You can get, your second person for 50% off, and some things you can bring kids for free in some cases, no single supplement in others. There's an adult only cruise on certain dates. There's so many different variations and options. I really would encourage people to consider that, and the Sea of Cortez, because it is it's hard to say one of my favorite itineraries of it, because they're all great and different, but this is really one of the best I have experienced.
I love it. I love it. We should, I won't spend too much time right now on it, but after this call, let's discuss. We should do an email blast focused on that for a few weeks, because that's something we should definitely let people know about. And obviously, since you just plugged it so very well, that is all at UnCruise, UNCURIUSE.com. And you, just the way you were describing it, I'm intrigued to potentially do it. And I agree with you. I love that area. I think it's one of the most fantastic areas on the planet. The Sea of Cortez is absolutely incredible, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And I love that you're there right now. That's that is rock star. And so, on that note, Liz, and you can hear it in everything that you say, the passion that you have for UnCruise, the industry, the 20 plus years that you've been in travel and media, of course, thus having, along with what you do with UnCruise, but then also brand Sanity Media. And I mean, you've had experience such as living a decade overseas. You've studied Arabic. You've created wellness retreats with previous NBA players and repeat authors. You have, from having a skydiving license, skinny dipping in Costa Rica. You wrote it, so I had to mention it. And I would think this is probably one of the most exciting times in your career. And I'm sure at the beginning of the pandemic, you had a moment, as many people did, regardless of what industry they were in, but you perhaps had this moment of, uh-oh. But then for it to, in my opinion, again, looking at silver linings and whatnot, to play out so well with respect to the travel industry. And I don't say that simply with respect to the significant increases that have happened and will continue to happen, in my opinion, at an accelerated pace, i.e. with bookings across the board, whatever they might be, whether it's, with UnCruise, luxury hotels, et cetera, but then further, again, the way that it gave people that moment, that forced moment to take a step back and understand that travel, of many other things, is very important and needed to be done. But how exciting, I would think, for you, having done successfully what you've done for so many years, to then be in these moments in your career doing what you're doing.
Wow. Yeah. It's definitely something I say I'm really grateful for. It's definitely a lot of work. I do not doubt that I think anybody in this industry will work their butt off, but you will also have fun doing it. And if you love doing it, it's not really like work. And most of the time, I'm kind of like, wow, this is pretty cool. But yeah, so after many, many years of traveling myself and working with luxury, adventure, travel, international travel, tourism boards, both domestically and overseas, I've been probably in every position you could name, kind of getting that PhD of life and marketing and public relations, if you will, out there, and combined with other things, that bringing it all in to really do what I love and targeting it specifically to niches like adventure and travel brands is pretty cool. With Brand Sanity Media, as you can tell by the name, it's great to give brands that are in this industry back some of their sanity, because there's so much going on. I mean, you just constantly have to be creating and doing new things, and just every little piece of content that you create is part of that brand mission and how people are going to know about you. And just a story in the media, from a video that's telling your specific inspirational elements, those things are so key. But there's so many moving parts to it that there's no rest sometimes, it seems. So being able to give those owners and those business owners and those CEOs or those executives back their sanity and what they do is part of what I love.
And I love the name, by the way. And you obviously came up with the name Brand Sanity Media.
I did.
That's a great name.
I like to say we don't do everything. We do market in specialties with that plan of action, kind of like, peanut butter looking for their artisan jelly, or tacos looking for their Tuesday, or Bob Ross looking for those happy little trees,
Peanut butter looking for its artisan jelly. I love that. And so as you look forward with Brand Sanity Media into 2023, this is separate from, to a certain extent, I know they're connected to us, they're connected, of course, but looking at Brand Sanity Media right now, heading into 2023, how do you look at 2023 as compared to, say, 2022?
Just growth, just being able to work with more people that are wanting to do more creative things. And I get to have the, I guess, privilege, if you will, of really deciding who we want to work with and picking and kind of choosing that, saying, you're probably not a fit. Yes, you're a fit. And really, being able to get creative with that, but just gaining more specific clients in the industry. As like I said, we don't do it all, and that's kind of the purpose. I'm not going to try to sell you an online course or a digital ad package of something that you don't need. It's very specific targeting of brand, public relations, and content creation for people. So it's definitely something to create connections with destinations of people.
And Liz Galloway, are you? Have you started working on, or are you just about to? Because you wrote these talking points a few weeks ago. Have you started working on your helicopter license?
Oh yeah, I started that years ago. I'm just continually going to be working on that when I have time, and if I could just do it all at once, I would. I would say it is one of the most fun things I have decided to embark upon in my adventures, for sure.
And also skydive license.
Yeah. I actually still have a sore tailbone a little bit from one of my last jumps, to be honest.
And
so I still have some things to learn, right?
And where was that?
That was in Seattle, led by Lake Chelan.
Okay, and then if all of that, as we've woven in and out of, isn't enough, also you're going to be part of a race crew on the Clipper yacht race around the world in 2024.
I am, and there's a couple of things with that. I actually just got back from there at the end of October, as I was there doing some of the training on the race boat, and I think it's one of the first times, and I can't believe I'm saying this publicly, but one of the first times in my adventures that I pursued, from peak bagging and all these different things, where I was one moment at that, well, probably a couple moments during that time, it's like, what the F am I doing here?
No, that's intense. That you can write it and say it having a beer or a cocktail with someone, and if people don't really get it, they say, oh well, that's so cool. But that's intense.
It was intense, and you're exactly right. You described it perfectly. You say to someone, they just kind of look at like, yeah, okay, because they don't living it day in, day out on the ocean, where that boat runs 24 hours. It races 24 hours a day. So you go 4-hour watch shifts. So you sleep 4, you're off 4, you're on 4, you're off 4. So, you get woken up at 4, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And, at one point we had really high winds, 30 knot winds, high waves. And it was basically you still were guiding by the stars. So
That is
you're trying to
so
stay.
great.
It is. It was, I mean, I have to say, it was exhilarating, a challenge. And at the same time, there is nothing that you can do except for be there in that moment and focused on it.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
Nothing else. Everything melts away. You know, you're just like, I just have to focus on guiding by these stars and staying on course to this degree and getting through these waves and keeping that boat from, you know, keeling over or, you know, doing something that it shouldn't be doing. And it takes a team of people to be on there. It is harder manning one of those 70-foot race yachts than it is flying a helicopter.
Oh,
that,
absolutely.
in my opinion, is the truth.
Absolutely. I think doing what you are doing, and are describing right now, I think it's quite possibly one of the most challenging mentally and physically things a person can do on the planet. It's not, you know, and again, that's going back to what we were bantering about. You know, you can describe it to someone, and again, you know, people conjure up like, oh, you're sailing around on a yacht. How lovely for you. It's like, no. This is it's intense work, and quite frankly, it's you have to be on point the whole time, or it's life or death. You know, you're running at high speed winds. One wrong move by one person not being focused, well, then you can just and that's it. You know, you're in the middle of nowhere, and that's it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And that is not only one of the reasons why I love adventure, why it drives me, but why I like working with and representing adventure brands, because it's things like that. It's living experiences like that. And yeah, there were definitely people hurling.
Oh yeah.
30, you know, the people who'd been sailing for years and years, they were just like, oh man, you know, and hanging over the side, hurling, and
absolutely.
It was different. Our captain at one point, I don't know if he was just trying to push our limits to see if we would drop out or not, but telling us about how he almost lost a thumb. One of his people, you know, there was a death on an overboard person on one of his races, like things like real stories.
Yep.
Because it's not, like you said, it's not just going out and you're having cocktails on a yacht. That's one thing. It's a racing yacht is very different. It sounds like you have some experience in it, so you might have to tell me that story.
It's one of the most intense things I think that anyone can commit themselves to and then actually do. It's you know, and we can all look out from any beach, whether it's where you are in Baja, whether you're in the Caribbean, whether you're in Laguna Beach, South Florida, whatever. You can look out at the horizon and fantasize about sailing out on a boat, and it's just so fabulous. It doesn't take too far before you get out, and the ocean is the ocean, and the ocean is majestic. It's one of the most powerful forces on the planet, and you're at its whim. And so, just to be able to, I could go on and on, Liz, but I'm incredibly, for what it's worth, I'm incredibly impressed that you committed to that and did it, because it takes, I think, one of the strongest people on the planet to. It's one thing to say it, you know. I can say, "Oh, I'm going to go get my flying license. I'm going to become a rock star," but it's
right.
But then to do it, but to do that, I think it takes a very unique, strong individual. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you for that. And the race isn't even till 2024, and so that was just the training part of it. So there's much more to come.
Right.
You know?
There's a lot more to come.
It's nice to, you know, people like the CEO, Dan at UnCruise Adventures, for example, is an avid sailor himself, has been all of his life, and so him supporting that, you know, where I can, you know, go and take that time to kind of have, I guess, that work-life balance, but pursue these adventures, I think says a lot about, you know, him as a person, a CEO, a leader, adventurer himself, a sailor, you know, supporting that, but also just the importance of, you know, what those things are in life to grow and challenge yourself.
Very well said. Very well said. And that was a perfect segue into, now that I have had the very, very great fortune of 34 minutes of your time on this Tuesday, while you're down in Baja and before the upcoming holiday. But yeah, Dan he's an incredible individual, and I've enjoyed the two podcasts that I've had with him more than any I think I can recount, along with this one with you. So thank you for coordinating those, and thank you for your time, Liz Galloway, director of marketing and communications for UnCruise, UNCRUISE.com, uncruise.com, as well as, along with being everything else that we have been discussing, the founder of Brand Sanity Media, which is brandsanitymedia.com, as it sounds. Liz, is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have, or anything that we didn't discuss that you would like to before I let you go? And I hope we get to do this again very soon.
I agree. This was a lot of fun. Anything you shouldn't have asked? I think anything that you should probably not be said publicly, but I think we're good.
Okay. I literally threw in as briefly as I could, the skinny dipping in Costa Rica, but I had to because you wrote it. So, but we can discuss that further next time. But thank you so much, Liz. You're such a pleasure to work with, and I really appreciate you taking the time today.
It's been a pleasure. I look forward to speaking next time.
All right, Liz. Talk to you soon.